He never told a single soul at the office that he spoke French. Not the coworkers who passed him in the hallway. Not the managers who barely looked up from their screens. Not even his own 2 kids waiting for him at home. Marcus kept that part of himself locked away, quiet as the mop he pushed across the polished floors every evening. But one ordinary Tuesday, behind a closed conference room door, the CEO said something that stopped him cold, and what Marcus chose to do next would change more lives than he ever imagined. If stories like this touch your heart, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. This is Whispers of Heart 0.2, and we're glad you're here. Marcus was 38, a single dad raising a 9-year-old girl named Aaliyah and a 6-year-old boy named Jamal in a small apartment on the south side of Chicago. Mornings started before sunrise, packing lunches, checking homework, kissing sleepy foreheads, then catching the bus across town to the gleaming headquarters of Horizon Tech. He worked nights as part of the maintenance crew, the kind of job most people walked past without noticing. He cleaned boardrooms after the executives left, emptied trash cans filled with half-eaten gourmet sandwiches, and polished glass doors until they reflected the city lights. No one asked about his life. No one knew he had once lived in Montreal with his late mother, a Haitian woman who taught him French the way other kids learn nursery rhymes. He could switch into the language without thinking, the words still warm in his mouth after all these years. But in this building, he kept silent. Being a black single father already drew enough quiet judgments. He didn't need one more reason for people to look at him differently. That Tuesday started like any other. The executive floor was nearly empty by 7. Marcus pushed his cart down the long hallway, the wheels soft against the carpet. He paused outside conference room, to empty a recycling bin. The door was closed, but voices carried through the thick wood. One belonged to the CEO, Richard Langford, sharp, impatient, the kind of man whose name appeared on magazine covers. The other voice was softer, with a clear French accent. Marcus froze. The CEO was speaking French. He hadn't meant to listen. He really hadn't. But the words slipped through the door like light under a crack. Langford was talking about the company's upcoming restructuring. He said the maintenance staff was dead weight. He laughed and called them the invisible ones who don't understand how the real world works. Then, still in French, he added something that landed harder. These single parents, especially the ones from certain backgrounds, they slow everything down. We need people who don't bring their problems to work. The French investor on the other side of the table chuckled politely. Marcus stood there, hand still on the bin, heart hammering against his ribs. He could have walked away. He could have pretended he never heard. Anger rose hot in his chest, the kind that makes a man want to shove the door open and demand respect. But something steadier held him still. He thought of Aaliyah's face when she asked why Daddy worked so late. He thought of Jamal's small hand reaching for his after a hard day at school. He thought of the quiet lessons his mother had taught him in that Montreal kitchen. Kindness is not weakness. Kindness is the only language that never needs translation. Marcus finished emptying the bin. He didn't storm in. He didn't confront anyone. Instead, he finished his shift the way he always did. Thorough, careful, leaving every room better than he found it. The next evening, something unexpected happened. The French investor, a woman named Claire Dubois, had stayed late reviewing contracts. She spilled an entire cup of coffee across a stack of important documents just as Marcus wheeled his cart past her open office door. Papers fluttered. Coffee spread in a dark stain. Claire's face went pale. She muttered in rapid French, frustrated and close to tears. Mon Dieu, this is a disaster. Everything is ruined. Marcus stepped in without hesitation. He set down his cart, grabbed clean cloth from his supplies, and began blotting the pages carefully. Then, in clear, gentle French, he said, "It's all right, madam. Paper can be replaced. Let me help." Claire stared at him as if he had stepped out of thin air. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Marcus continued, still in French, explaining that he could reprint the documents from the company system if she gave him the file names, and that he would stay as long as needed. Her eyes softened. She asked how he knew the language. He told her the truth, about his mother, about the years in Montreal, about keeping the words quiet because he never thought anyone in this building would care to hear them. Claire listened, really listened. When the papers were saved and the floor cleaned, she thanked him in a voice that no longer sounded like a stranger's. The next morning, Claire requested a private meeting with the CEO. Marcus never learned every word that passed between them, but he felt the shift almost immediately. Langford appeared on the maintenance floor that afternoon, something he had never done before. He found Marcus restocking paper towels in the supply closet and asked, almost awkwardly, if they could talk. The conversation was short. Langford admitted he had been under pressure from investors. He admitted he had said things he regretted. He did not offer a perfect apology, but he offered something better, an invitation. Horizon Tech was launching a new community outreach program for single parents in the city, job training, flexible schedules, emergency childcare support. Langford wanted Marcus to help shape it, not as a token, as someone who actually understood the weight those parents carried. Marcus went home that night and sat at the kitchen table with Aaliyah and Jamal. He told them, for the first time in years, stories in French, silly ones about talking foxes and brave little boats. The kids laughed, stumbling over the words, eyes bright. He realized then that silence had protected him, but kindness had opened a door he never expected. Weeks turned into months. The outreach program grew. Other single parents found steady work with hours that let them see their children before bedtime. Langford still wasn't a perfect man, but he stopped speaking about people as if they were invisible. Claire returned to France with a different story about the company than the one she had arrived with. And Marcus? He still pushed the mop some nights, still polished the glass, still caught the late bus home. But now the people who passed him in the hallway sometimes stopped to say good evening. Sometimes they asked how the kids were doing. Sometimes they simply looked him in the eye and smiled like he belonged there, because he did. Kindness does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it is a man who chooses not to answer cruelty with more cruelty. Sometimes it is a quiet decision to help when no one is watching. Marcus never set out to change a company or impress a CEO. He only did what his mother had taught him. Meet the moment with the best of yourself, even when the moment does not deserve it. That choice echoed farther than he could have guessed, into boardrooms, into family kitchens, into the lives of strangers who would never know his name. If you are watching this and feeling tired, overlooked, or unseen, remember Marcus standing outside that closed door. You do not have to shout to be heard. You do not have to prove your worth to people who have already decided your value. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay soft in a hard place. Carry that softness into the next conversation, the next long day, the next moment when anger feels easier. Someone, somewhere, is waiting for the kind of light only you can bring. Spread it, quietly, boldly, in whatever language your heart speaks best. The world is listening more carefully than you think.